Imagine a world plunged into chaos. An emperor assassinated, the throne sold to the highest bidder, and a vast empire teetering on the brink of civil war. This isn't the plot of a blockbuster movie. This was the reality of Rome in the year 193 AD, the infamous Year of the Five Emperors. And from the heart of this turmoil, one man would rise, a military genius from the distant provinces of Africa, destined to forge a new dynasty from the ashes of the old. His name was Septimius Severus, and his story is one of ambition, betrayal, and relentless conquest. Born in Leptis Magna, in what is now modern-day Libya, Lucius Septimius Severus was an outsider. He spoke Latin with a thick accent, and his Punic heritage set him apart from the Roman elite. But what he lacked in aristocratic connections, he more than made up for in sheer determination and military brilliance. He climbed the ranks of the Roman army, earning a reputation as a stern, disciplined, and incredibly effective commander. He was a soldier's soldier, respected by the men he led. But Severus had ambitions that stretched far beyond the battlefield. He had his eyes on the ultimate prize, the imperial throne. The catalyst for his dramatic ascent was the murder of Emperor Pertinax. The Praetorian Guard, the emperor's own bodyguards, committed this heinous act and then had the audacity to auction off the Roman Empire. A wealthy senator named Didius Julianus won the bid, a decision that enraged the public and, more importantly, the powerful legions stationed across the empire. The people of Rome rioted, and 3 powerful generals, including Severus in Pannonia, were declared emperor by their troops. A brutal civil war was inevitable. Severus was the closest to Rome, and he knew speed was his greatest weapon. He marched his legions toward the capital at a breathtaking pace, covering hundreds of miles in just a few weeks. The usurper, Didius Julianus, panicked. He sent assassins, offered to share power, but nothing could stop the relentless advance of the Pannonian legions. The Senate, seeing which way the wind was blowing, declared Julianus a public enemy and welcomed Severus. When he entered Rome, he did so not as a conqueror, but as the avenger of Pertinax. His first act? He disbanded the treacherous Praetorian Guard, replacing them with his own loyal soldiers. The message was clear. A new power was in charge. But securing Rome was only the beginning. 2 formidable rivals remained, Pescennius Niger in the east, controlling the wealthy provinces of Syria and Egypt, and Clodius Albinus in the west, the powerful governor of Britain with 3 legions at his command. Severus was a master strategist. He knew he couldn't fight a war on 2 fronts, so he made a cunning deal with Albinus, offering him the title of Caesar, effectively his heir, to keep him neutral. It was a brilliant, if deceptive, move. With his western flank secure, Severus turned all his military might eastward against Niger. The clash that followed was epic. The decisive battle took place near Issus, the very same ground where Alexander the Great had won a historic victory centuries earlier. Severus's forces, battle-hardened and expertly led, crushed Niger's army. Niger himself was captured and executed, his head sent back to Rome as a grim trophy. With the East subdued, Severus had eliminated one rival. Now, only one man stood between him and absolute power, his supposed partner, Clodius Albinus. The fragile alliance was doomed from the start. Severus had no intention of sharing power. In 196 AD, he had his own son, Caracalla, declared Caesar, a direct insult to Albinus. The betrayal was complete. Albinus, realizing he'd been played, declared himself emperor and crossed the channel from Britain into Gaul, ready for the final, bloody showdown. This would be a battle of titans, a Roman versus Roman conflict on a scale not seen in generations. The 2 massive armies met near Lugdunum, modern-day Lyon, in France. It was one of the largest and most brutal battles in Roman history, with some sources claiming up to 150,000 soldiers on each side. For 2 days, the fate of the empire hung in the balance. At one point, Severus's own cavalry was pushed back, and the emperor himself was thrown from his horse. It seemed like all was lost. But Severus, rallying his men, personally led a desperate charge that turned the tide of the battle. Albinus's forces broke, and he fled back to Lugdunum, where he took his own life. The civil war was over. Septimius Severus was the undisputed master of the Roman world. With his rivals eliminated, Severus was free to rule. But he was a military man at heart, and his reign would be defined by war and conquest. He wasn't content just to sit in Rome. He launched a massive, punishing campaign against the Parthian Empire, Rome's age-old enemy in the east. He marched his legions deep into their territory, sacking their capital, Ctesiphon, and avenging earlier Roman defeats. The victory was so total that he earned the title Parthicus Maximus. The treasures he brought back were immense, funding a massive building program in Rome, including the magnificent arch of Septimius Severus, which still stands today as a testament to his victories. Severus knew that his power came not from the Senate, but from the army. He famously advised his sons to be harmonious, enrich the soldiers, and scorn all other men. He significantly increased army pay, granted soldiers the right to marry, and lavished them with bonuses. This created a powerful, professional military fiercely loyal to the emperor. But it also placed a huge financial strain on the empire, and further shifted the balance of power away from the civilian government. He was transforming Rome from a republic ruled by an emperor into an outright military monarchy. As he grew older, Severus turned his attention to the northern frontiers. The untamed tribes of Caledonia, in modern-day Scotland, were constantly raiding Roman Britain, determined to finally conquer the entire island. The aging and ailing emperor, suffering from severe gout, personally led a massive invasion force north in 208 AD. He campaigned relentlessly, pushing further into the Scottish Highlands than any Roman before him. The terrain was brutal, the guerrilla tactics of the Caledonians were exhausting, and the Roman army suffered heavy losses. Despite the immense cost, Severus was unyielding. He strengthened Hadrian's Wall and began planning another campaign, but his body, worn down by a lifetime of war, finally gave out. In the city of Eboracum, modern-day York, in the year 211 AD, Septimius Severus died. His final words to his two sons, Caracalla and Geta, were a reflection of his life's philosophy. Septimius Severus was a pivotal figure in Roman history. He stabilized an empire on the verge of collapse, founded a new dynasty, and expanded its borders. But his legacy is complex. By militarizing the government and placing the army above all else, he sowed the seeds for the chaotic crisis of the 3rd century that would follow his dynasty's fall. He was a ruthless survivor, a brilliant general, and an emperor who fundamentally changed the nature of Roman power, leaving behind an empire stronger, yet more fragile, than the one he had found. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the life of one of Rome's most formidable emperors. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into history. We'll see you in the next one.